Hold on to your butts. It's Wilhelm Screamfest.
Welcome back. Once again, I have Dave and Sam, the teachers.
Hello.
Hi.
And
The teachers.
the teachers, not the teacher, the teachers.
Yes.
But interesting fact is Dave is a really big fan of Stephen King.
Oh, yeah. I've read roughly 35 of his books. The first one I read was Desperation when I was, how old was I? I was 11 years old. And I read it because my dad read it. It had come out like a year before, and my dad read it when we went on a fishing trip. Or no, we were on a camping trip. And he finished it late at night next to the campfire and was so freaked out by it that he almost threw it in the campfire to burn it. And the main character's name is David. And and then once I read it, I totally understood why. And so yeah, I've been a long time diehard Stephen King fan, and he just fucking writes so many books. He does like 2 new books a year. It pisses me off. I can't keep up. I'm trying to read other shit. Come on, King, just chill the fuck out, okay? And also as a diehard King fan and as a sort of millennial hipster type film lover type guy, I just fucking can't stand almost every film adaptation that's been made from Stephen King's books. It really pisses me off, especially the horror ones.
How is The Dark Tower, dude?
Oh God, don't even get me started on that shit. Yeah, man, I love the Dark Tower series. I've been talking about how they should make a movie out of that shit for 15 years, and then I don't even bother to go see it when it actually does come out because it has a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, so most of the King adaptations, as I think many people would agree, are pretty bad, and it's partly because of the limitations of them. You know, with the original it was an ABC miniseries, right? And so they had to completely sanitize it, so they couldn't have any violence in it. They could have like blood on the wall or like bullshit like that, but they can't, have any hardcore violence. They can't have any nudity. They can't have any bad language even. And Stephen King's monsters, the villains, the bad guys in his books, they're really, really evil. Like, they're really evil. And the things that they say and the things that they do are really fucked up. That's like the only way you can describe it. So to sanitize it for mainstream audiences and put it on an ABC miniseries is just garbage in my opinion. So yeah, as a result, I was very, very excited for this remake.
Yeah, so the miniseries came out 1990, so 27 years later we get this.
Wow, 1990?
Yeah.
It's not even a remake because it wasn't a film, so I would say it's the first film adaptation.
Yeah.
And fun fact, which to people who may not know, Pennywise comes out every 27 years is when he comes to feed. So 27 years since the miniseries, the film comes out.
Wow.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
And a big thing about Pennywise is the big thing about this movie is it's for a lot of people, especially the younger generations, it's their first time seeing Pennywise in it on the big, or just not on the big screen, but just in general. Like, I've never seen the full length, the original miniseries. I've seen parts of it, but not all together, especially not in my adult life. Maybe as a kid I've seen it, and I've been scared a little bit, but more because Tim Curry is just
the
very
images
frightening.
I remember of Tim Curry.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But this movie, the three of us saw this when it came out, which was about, 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I just flashed back on the fucking bitch sitting next to me.
Oh, yeah.
Snapchatting. Sorry, I'm being loud. Snapchatting the goddamn movie. And, like, I couldn't believe that, dude. What kind of monster? I would rather sit next to Pennywise watching that shit.
well, some theaters did get to sit next to Pennywise.
Right,
wow,
yeah. So,
And-
anyways, but yeah, that was, about a month ago that we saw that.
Yeah, so we all pretty much enjoyed it. We talked about it on the way, like, driving back, but we didn't get too far in depth about this. I feel like we can go on and on, but we'll try and keep it about a 30-minute review. But what did you guys think of this movie?
I guess I'll start since Dave's the big Stephen King fan. He can go a little more in depth. But for me, for someone who hasn't read the book, not a big Stephen King fan, hasn't really seen the TV movie. I had heard a lot about Pennywise the Clown and all that. But seeing this movie, I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not a big fan of horror movies, so when I see a horror movie that I really enjoy, it stays with me, you know. So I'm actually really looking forward to watching it again. But I believe Pennywise was awesome, very good clown. But just the character itself, very damn, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
There are a few scenes that just still are in my mind.
So it stuck with you.
Yes, definitely stuck with me.
Did you have a hard time sleeping that night?
I mean, no, I'm not 10 years old anymore, but it definitely did scare me when I was in the theater, and that is not that easy to do. Not that easy.
Especially since horror movies, they usually all fall for the same tropes, which this movie does at some points. There's the fake scares and then just the loud noises, but it's really the Pennywise show, the Bill Skarsgård show, which Skarsgård, that family, holy shit.
Yeah, seriously.
Jeez.
No, I wanted to actually speak on his performance too, which is just that it's an incredibly original performance. It's very and really the entire movie, it's very original in its own way.
How does it compare to the actual character in the book?
It's pretty. Yeah, it's good. It looks more modernized than it's described in the book. It's described as a cross between Bozo the Clown, which was like basically the first famous clown, like the original clown, basically. I think from like the Ringling Brothers or something, but a cross between Bozo the Clown and Ronald McDonald, like the old 50s Ronald McDonald, I guess it would be the 80s
for the
one.
90s?
They describe it differently, but in different eras. But yeah, I think they say, oh yeah, no, in the 50s they say, oh, it's like Bozo the Clown, but with like a different type of nose or something. But anyways, in this one, obviously, it looks more like he's in a Marilyn Manson music video or something. But still very...
In a good way, though.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, still very cool looking, very sinister looking. But then the way he acts and just the sound of his voice, was very creepy. One of the first things I want to point out is in that first scene with Georgie when he sort of like tunes out for a second. And then Georgie's like, all right, I need to go. And then he looks back at him. That part was really, really creepy to me. And that was kind of a liberty they took because this monster I don't think would do something like that. It wouldn't would daydream for a second, you know? But yeah, I mean, obviously what was it thinking about in that moment? It was probably thinking about all the fucked up things it was going to do to him.
Yeah.
Which is cool as fuck.
Especially about that scene. I don't know if you know, so in that scene when if you notice his eyes, one eye is looking at the camera and one is looking at Georgie.
I did notice that actually.
And
wow.
So the director,
I was wondering, did he have a lazy eye? I was very confused.
The director originally was going to CGI it in, and Skarsgård was like, "Oh no, I can do that on cue if I wanted to."
Are you serious?
So they used that in the movie.
What?
Wow.
That is really cool.
Like that's just such a random like talent, but like works perfectly for the movie.
And so they had wanted to do that, not knowing that he had that ability.
Yeah, they wanted to do
that. Is bananas. That's that's really cool.
So I wasn't paying attention to his eyes throughout the rest of the movie. But I believe he did it a couple more times because they're saying that it would have cost like thousands of dollars in CGI.
Sure.
Which is like holy shit.
Isn't that crazy?
That's just
Hopefully they gave him that.
So what's funny too about the eyes is that that part was especially a lot truer to the book than the original one, because in the original one they describe his eyes as being these gold ringed eyes that when you're in the dark when he's in the dark, all you can see are the sort of yellow rims of his eyes, and
which we see when he's in like the meat locker, right?
Yeah,
but
we see it a few times.
Yeah.
But especially that first scene, which is the introduction to him in both the movie and the book. And that first scene with Georgie, that's like the first thing he sees is just the eyes as they open. And I remember immediately just thinking, okay, this is a lot truer to the original.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into since this movie's been out for a while and pretty much everyone has seen it because it's made. I don't even know how much money it's made so far, but it's
Isn't
made
it the highest grossing.
Yeah, it's the highest grossing horror.
It surpassed The Exorcist, which had that title for decades.
It's the highest rated or highest grossing film for August, I think, and for
is it? Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
I think it's just
that's cool.
Now has to beat Deadpool for like the most top gross R-rated movie.
Oh wow.
I'm pretty sure it's over 500 million, right?
Oh yeah,
I think.
It's Warner Brothers.
I forget.
Warner Brothers, yes, released by New Line. 307 million domestically, but foreign.
I'm sure it made another at least 200 foreign.
And it
made 300 foreign. So it's at 600 million worldwide.
I think Deadpool's at 750 right now, or not right now, but
cool.
that's what it was.
and it surpassed The Exorcist, which at the time had been the largest grossing horror movie, I think. But I think I was reading that like accounting for inflation, it actually does not surpass The Exorcist. The Exorcist is like adjusting for inflation, it's like over $1 billion or something.
Jesus.
Yeah. So we can go into just spoilers right away. So that first scene, I was on edge, like, okay, what's gonna happen? Because this is gonna either make or break the movie as to what is shown. Even I didn't know how gruesome the movie or the book is, but from all I've heard is it's a very gruesome, bloody, fucked up book. So I was expecting something crazy to happen, and then when you see him getting closer, and right when I was happening, I was thinking back to, okay, Tim Curry he gets more scary looking, goes, and it cuts away.
Right.
But you see his eyes like bulge out of his head.
His teeth fucking get crazy.
They become like shark teeth and just chomps on Georgie's arm, which is like,
and bites it off.
So what I was really wondering, and I remember I'd been waiting in anticipation before the movie had come out of like, how are they going to do that first scene? Because the first scene depicts a very, very brutally violent act that's being done on a little child, on a 5 or 6 year old boy, you know, and the very first chapter is from that boy's perspective. One thing that King likes to do in his books is he likes to write from as many different characters' perspectives as possible, and it's sort of like, I forget what they call it. I think it's like second person narrative or something like that, but where the story's being narrated, but it's through the lens of that character. So the narration takes on different voices because it's more of like being narrated by that character. So when it's Georgie, it's a very happy sort of scene until the terror at the end. And and what the monster does is it actually leaves the body, but it rips his arm off and then steals the arm to eat it in the sewers. And then so Bill doesn't actually think he's missing. He knows that he's dead, and so they have a funeral and everything. But yeah, I remember wondering, like, in this new movie, what are they gonna do? Because in the original, it just shows his face and his mouth opening, you know, and you just see the boy screaming, because of course they can't show a little boy getting killed. And even most movies where they do want to have a child get killed in a horror movie, they don't show it because it's too traumatic for audiences, I think, you know, and they don't want to piss people off. So they don't want to get an NC-17 rating either, you know. So we usually don't see it, and here they showed the arm getting ripped off, which is great. And I love that they actually showed it, because even in the book they don't show it actually, like, or they don't show it. What you see is Georgie sort of going crazy as the thing locks onto his arm, and then all the last part is Georgie basically passing out, and then the next scene, it's from the perspective of like the next door neighbor who sees the body of this boy, and he turns the boy over, and he describes seeing this red mass of flesh where his arm was supposed to be, and this white out of the red mass of flesh. King's very good at describing gore. And they didn't quite show that, but I like the liberty that they took with the scene. It was mostly staying true to the original, staying true to the source material, but they took a couple liberties, and I thought it was tasteful.
So we won't go too much into details about each character, but let's just talk about who your favorites were, because I feel like everyone has their different favorite characters.
Do you want me to go first since I know all the names?
Go ahead, yeah. It'll help.
So the characters are Bill Denbrough. He's the main character with the stutter. Mike Hanlon. He's the can I say black? He's the black child. He's the African American child. No, he's the black kid that works on a farm. Then there's Richie Tozier. He's the kid that's in Stranger Things, and he's like the funny kid with the glasses. There's Eddie Kasprak. He's the kid with the inhaler, or he's the kid with asthma or whatever. Beverly Marsh. She's the only girl that's in the Losers Club, and then Ben Hanscom, and Ben Hanscom is the fat kid. And then there's Chuck Bowers, who's like the bully, and that's basically it. So personally, my favorite character in this remake, in this new adaptation, is Richie Tozier. I thought that little Stranger Things kid totally stole the show. We were talking about how it was a little bit annoying at first, and I totally understand that. But I will point out to people that haven't read the book that he's described in the book as being annoyingly funny. Like, he's basically got like almost like ADD, or like he's basically like incapable of ever being serious, and he uses humor sort of as a coping mechanism to mask his fear. And so, but even when they're not running away from the monster or whatever, they're always rolling their eyes at him. They're like, dude, shut the fuck up with your jokes, you know?
But
So I thought it jived well.
Yeah.
Like the fact that a lot of people felt that way, and I even felt that way too.
Yeah.
I thought was actually, if anything, intentional.
yeah, I think going back on that is, as annoying as it is, that's exactly how a 12, 13-year-old boy acts. Is, hey,
Yeah.
my dick is as big as that tree.
Yeah.
Say that.
Yeah,
I know
totally.
all about that.
I'm
Yeah,
sure you do as a middle school teacher.
Fucking A.
Sam, who's your favorite character?
Who was the character with the overbearing mom?
That was Eddie Kasprak.
Okay,
Yeah,
Eddie Kasprak was my favorite character.
Yeah, I feel like
He's the one that
he starts
stuck with
stealing
me.
the show up towards the end of the
Totally.
movie.
Yeah, I agree.
He stole the show. Your favorite character, the annoyingly funny one. To me, there were only a few scenes that I really enjoyed by him. The rest of them, like, I'd rather hear any other character than this guy. I did not enjoy his character at all. But I mean, it didn't detract from the
That's
movie.
surprising.
It didn't detract from the movie.
yeah.
You know, I figured that it was part of the book, and he was true to the character. But I just personally didn't like that one. But yes, the character with the overbearing mom, I think. In terms of his story as it progressed, I think I liked his story better than
And he's one of the only stories that they really actually
delve.
dived even remotely into in this movie, which was one of the more.
I mean, that's as
disappointing
far as the
parts
kids, but
yeah.
the It monster.
Oh, yeah,
I think
Pennywise
Pennywise
definitely.
is, you know.
I think before we go into Pennywise a little bit more, Bev is definitely my favorite, just
Really?
because
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I feel like there's there's just a growing trend of strong female characters in movies,
Yeah.
which I feel like is great because, I mean, why can't a female be good or anything? Like, we have Mad Max Fury Road, where Furiosa is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
We have these new scream queens, like, in It Follows. She's,
Yeah.
I can't think of her name.
It's something with an M.
Something Monroe.
Monroe.
Who's that chick from The Witch?
It's like Maya Monroe or something.
Who's that
Micah
chick from The
Monroe.
Witch?
The Witch.
What's her name? The one she was in Split.
I can't remember her name, but she's another scream queen.
Yeah, she's
But
good.
I feel like in this type of, like, not just but like specifically horror is the female characters are getting a lot better. They're not just the final girl that's gonna die. And
Well, because people are sick of that. They're sick of
Yeah.
seeing these bitches falling over themselves, running away from the monster, and then
Oh my god!
every single time. It's obviously that was a part of the more.
And you
sort
know,
of
it touched on some
chauvinistic-
dark themes too, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know,
oh yeah, that's another good, or just like really good part about her story is how demented and dark it is. Like the dad,
Yeah.
which is that stepdad or just her?
That's her dad.
Her real dad.
oh shit.
Okay, so that's even more creepy.
Yeah.
So and you know that's another thing too about a lot of the King books is that he likes to write about not just a monster. There's always some sort of monster or some sort of corrupting force, but about the evil that we all have inside of us, you know, and we're all capable of being corrupted by the monster because of the evil that's inside of us. And he also likes to write about the innocent type characters, and usually the children are the more innocent type characters. And so yeah, we see the evils, and Derry is the ultimate sort of not personification, but whatever the word is for whatever, you know, but it's that's the best word I can think of. It's the personification of what I'm talking about. About a place or an object that could be evil. This place is so evil because of the corrupted presence of this monster that the people that live there are corrupted by it, and they're also sort of evil in their own way. You know, we got the overbearing mom that Eddie has. We've got Bev's creepy rapist stepdad. Like, they sort of are a little bit vague with that in the movie. And
Even the old couple in that car.
yeah,
driving
they just
by.
exactly. That was the
Like,
best.
bye,
That was
Felicia.
that was the biggest moment, really, where they were trying to show what Derry is like. And
Yeah.
I wish that they had explored that a little bit more. But yeah, when they turn away and then we see the balloon, that was like totally. That's not in the book at all, but that's totally on purpose. And I loved it because that's a really easy way to show the relationship between Derry and Pennywise.
And yeah, just she has the most dark.
Yeah.
Even though everyone has dark moments, but I feel like her performance. I think what's her Sophia Lillis. I think she is going to be a big star.
I agree.
within a
I
couple
totally
years.
agree.
Like I told you guys earlier, I had the same feeling about her as I did with Ella Fanning in Super 8. That she's going to be thrown into a lot of big movies, and she definitely has the acting chops.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I thought she did a great job.
Not just going to be in horror, but I feel like she can work in
yeah.
comedies. She can work in I don't know. There's just something charming about her.
She
Like,
seems a good agent.
yeah, she's like,
Yeah,
her
seriously.
interactions with the other boys, like even if they don't like they all think like she's like, oh my god, she's well. First of all, it's a girl, and they're like,
Yeah.
but some of them are like romantically evolved,
Mm-hmm.
but other ones are just like, oh, you're a friend, you're
Yeah.
whatever. But I feel like all the characters, all the kids, they bounce off each other so well, which is a really hard thing to do with movies. Is finding a group of kids
Yeah.
that not just have chemistry off screen and on screen, but can transcribe what the script is trying to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Can we talk about some of the other actors in
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So we talked about the ones we liked. In my personal opinion, I could not stand the main actor, the one that played Bill Denbrough. I'm sorry if he ever hears this. Like it was just not that. I'm sorry, just not. Okay, that stutter. That is not what stutters sound like. It didn't even sound like. Yeah, he was just like, we need to go to the lake. I'm like, that's not what a stutter sounds like. It would sound more like we need to go to the. It sounds way worse than that,
Yeah.
And it's a very debilitating thing. It's very embarrassing, and they just it was as though he showed up for the audition and they're like, all right, can you do a stutter? And he was like, yeah, sure. We need to go to the lake. And like, all right, you got it. You're amazing. You look pretty. The girls will love you, and that's all that really matters. I feel like is what went into his casting decision. So I really did not like the kid that played Bill Denbrough.
I didn't really,
And not everyone agrees with me. A lot of people did like him. So
yeah, I was just like whatever with him.
Yeah.
None of the kids really to me like annoyed me. There was
Mike Hanlon. I totally forgot about the Jewish kid, Stanley.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
Everyone forgets about him because
he's forgettable.
yeah, like I feel like that's the least scary of everyone's thing is like that weird face lady.
Yeah,
Like yeah, it's scary, but compared to everything else, that's
Right.
It
It's
doesn't
funny.
really,
I think King himself found that pretty terrifying. From an interview I read of him watching the film, that was the one scene that like terrified.
Oh, in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I could see how maybe at least how King could have really liked the painting monster more than the other ones, just because of the fact that I think King would appreciate the simplicity of it and the fact that he likes to, like many artists and writers and stuff, he writes based on a personal moment in his life where he had a thought and it just sort of went with it. And a kid being afraid of a painting in a like a spooky looking painting
Yeah.
in some attic is a cool, authentic fear that
Yeah.
a kid could have, And so I could see why King would like that one particularly more than the average fan. Plus, King tends to have opinions that diverge from a lot of fans' opinions.
That is true.
Especially when it comes to his own adaptations.
He did not like The Shining.
I don't even get me started on that. Yeah, I know.
But before we go into like just the scare factor of the movie, I just wanted to ask you: did Mike have a bigger role in the book? Because I feel like
totally.
he's thrown to the side.
I can go a little bit. Yeah, one thing that's great about the book and why it's so long is that the first half of it takes place when they're kids, and so for all the people that have read it, we're wondering how this movie, which is all with kids in it, like what they're gonna do. Is it gonna end with in a conclusion or not? And so so the first half is when they're kids for the most part, and then the second half is when they're adults, but it does still kind of chop back and forth, and we see these flashbacks basically of when they're all adults and they're getting called back. And so the sort of the deal is that Mike is the one kid that stayed behind, and he stayed in Derry because of this promise that they make at the end that if it ever comes back, they need to all agree, no matter what they're doing, to come back and fight it, And so Mike is the one that stays and observes basically, and everyone else leaves. And Pennywise sort of alludes to this in the movie that when what they all do is they all leave, and as they become adults, now that they're not in this corrupted place called Derry anymore, they all and because they sort of earned some sort of good karma in its own way. King loves to do that. They all become successful adults, and they're successful at the specific skills that they have, that they exhibit as kids. It's really cool. So like Richie Tozier, the funny kid, becomes like a comedian, and Beverly Marsh becomes like a fashion designer. We don't really see her working with art or whatever in the movie, but yeah, so we see some of their skills. And so yes, Mike does have a big role. In fact, some would say that he has the most important role. He's the one that was willing to sacrifice having a nice, fun life away from this town, and he does that specifically because of this promise that they made. And it's not like that it happened on purpose. I think it's just because his character's family owns a farm there, and so that was
Yeah.
his job, was working on this farm. So yeah, no, King devotes a good amount of, I would say, roughly equal time to every character, which makes it so cool. Obviously Bill Denbrough, the main character, is going to get a little bit more, of his story told, but and it sort of centralizes on him with Georgie getting killed. But so they all have a very significant role, and they all have their own sort of. It's like Stand by Me. You know what I mean? Also a King adaptation. Those 4 characters all have their own very specific personality traits and stuff, and those traits add to the story and they become important in the story. And so yeah, Mike Hanlon kind of did feel tossed to the side. I agree, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. Even Ben, the fat kid, he's probably, I would say, the second most important character, and he also felt kind of tossed to the side too. He was just sort of just seemed like the plot device character.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm the one that does the research, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna explain the plot of this monster and stuff. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. But
We can get right into the scares then, since this is like a horror review. What stuck out to you the most? What was the most frightening part? As like just with Pennywise.
I've
know
talked
mine.
about this with everyone I come into contact with who's seen the movie, but the projector scene.
yeah,
The projector scene is, to me, one of my favorite scenes in film this year. It was incredible, and just the way it's slow. You had seen some of it too in the trailer, so you were a little like, okay, we've seen this, but it just keeps going and going, and then that scene where it goes out, and then he comes out of the screen. Jesus.
yeah.
And he's like on all fours, like, ah.
Yeah,
Jesus.
crawling really fast. Yeah, that was a very nightmarish
And
shot.
he was,
That was cool.
probably a good, maybe like 30 feet tall.
Yeah,
And we saw the movie pretty close up to the screen.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that,
we were like second row.
Yeah.
So that was intense.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the one scene that really, really, really stuck out to me in terms of horror.
And it's funny because it's a jump scare scene, which is what cinephiles and horror fans sort of have been making fun of for years now, right? It's because it's a cheap scare. But even some of my students, when they came back the next week and we were all talking about it, they were sort of making fun of that scene. Some of them at least were.
Really?
And because it was just a jump scare to them, because they were had sort of become overly sharp with their cynicism,
So
whereas
they're like, it's just a jump scare.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now I see that.
But so in my opinion, though, what I loved about it was that it was the jump scare to end all jump scares.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like such a good jump scare in many different ways. One of the ways you mentioned was the way that it's marketed in the trailer. They don't show.
Yeah, they don't show that.
They don't show that part. So in the trailer, you think that we've seen the jump scare already, right? And we haven't, right? And then when you're watching it, you only have a few seconds to process it, but something's coming, right? It's like, and then when it comes, what you see is his face, but just more insane looking, right? And I just love that all the features were more exaggerated, the teeth and the eyes, and he was obviously a lot bigger. And then yeah, the way he was crawling was just terrifying, man. That was just that looked like what nightmares are made of, is what that shot looked like.
Yeah.
And just being on your back, trying to crawl away from it, as it just like.
I think that was the first scene that they shot with the kids and Pennywise.
No shit.
Oh, really?
What they said was
They want to have the
director said
authentic
is
fear. Yeah,
they
that's cool.
they pretty much try to film as much as they can without Pennywise,
Yeah.
and then they kept Pennywise away without makeup, so they didn't even know what he looked like.
That's
that's
awesome.
cool.
So when
That's
he came
really
in, they're
awesome.
like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah.
And
That's really cool.
The
That's very
kids, the
creative.
kids said that. Yeah, we were trying to figure out what he looks like, if he's gonna look like the original or what. And then when we finally saw him, we were all pretty scared.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's awesome.
Because that's
Yeah.
what shows like that was part of them acting, but also
Yeah.
them being scared as shit. And like them going against like the garage door, like trying to open it, like
Yeah, and that's good filmmaking right there, because that's an
intangible thing
Yeah.
that you don't really...
and it's gonna push your budget up a little bit because there's scheduling conflicts and things like that. So it's gonna stretch out the production process, and so that's a sacrifice that they made to have authentic fear on their faces, and you got to respect that.
And going to that idea of production, like, I was a little worried. I'm sure you were a little worried too.
Yeah.
Especially with who was first
Yeah.
attached to this film. Fukunaga
Yeah, I know.
is amazing.
Yeah.
For those of you who have seen True Detective and Beasts of No Nation, So when I heard he was going to do an It movie, I was very excited. And
Yes,
writing it
same,
too.
same.
Writing it too.
For someone like me too, with being a diehard King fan and stuff, and having it also be a personal, terrifying, like, childhood staple for me. For me to just completely green light. Not that anyone gives a shit what I think, but like for me to just be completely on board with Fukunaga says something. You know, like I was, you know, definitely he's gonna do a great
And we
job.
were both looking forward to it intensely.
Yeah.
And then when we found out he was out,
Oh, I was so disappointed.
same, you know, very disappointing. And to be honest, I thought I was like, well, it's gonna be a shitty movie, and you know,
exactly.
I probably don't even need to watch it.
Hollywood's just gonna fucking, you know,
and especially when we found out it was the Mama director.
Right. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, dude. You know,
Which is like a spare me.
that's who you
movie.
get to do the It film. But
It works, and
it worked.
worked,
Hey, they proved me wrong. So
And you
I'm
know,
glad.
Fukunaga had still written enough of the script that he got a writing credit anyways. And so like, and we were talking about that. The first thing we said when we walked out of the theater was that we felt like it was unpolished Fukunaga writing. You know, like it felt like the movie was great, but it should have been like a masterpiece.
So you think it could have been better if Fukunaga did it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I think he would have explored the town of Derry more. I think he would have exhibited that a lot more accurately, and I think that we would have seen more of the character development of the characters and the relationships with their parents, which is also very important to the sort of development of the story and to the character development itself. And it was just sort of lacking. It was just almost there, but not quite.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it too.
And
It's
I
on the
thought
cusp.
and I thought it was weird that they explored some of the parent characters, but not all of them. You know, I thought that was just kind of bizarre. Because they all sort of are important to their development, and especially Bill Denbrow's parents, but they're not even present in the movie at all, really, and like a huge thing
That's true.
Yeah, a huge thing that affected who he was the fact that at least in the book his little brother was murdered, and in the movie he's just
there are
missing.
a few scenes, but it's nothing.
There's a few scenes, but what I'm saying though is that what really drives their relationship in it is that they sort of blame him for his brother's death because he made the boat and told him to go out and play in the rain.
Yeah, I don't think they touched that at all.
And that's a really fucked up thing. If you've seen Stand By Me, like that's a part of Stand By Me. Is the main,
I was just gonna ask you. Do you know which one came out first? Which book?
Stand By Me, I think, because that was 80, I think, right? And then or no, wait, sorry, yeah, Stand By Me was I think Stand By Me was actually 82, but you mean before the movie or
no? I mean the books.
It
or the body.
Very close to each other. Okay. Very close to each other. Yeah, the body. You mean? Yeah, I would say probably the body was actually first. Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking was like if they did focus more, maybe they would maybe almost outcast them. He's just invisible. Like, oh, we lost our favorite child.
Yeah. And that's really the slight difference is that in Stand By Me, it was the favorite child that died, and so he's got survivor's guilt basically. Yeah. Whereas in it, he sort of blames himself as well as his parents also blaming him. You know, because like I said, he had gotten him to go out there in the first place, which is just that's a whole other type of fear that we all sort of are subconsciously aware of. I think that like, what if I was responsible for murdering my own loved one on accident or something like that? That's a thing that could happen to anyone, and you can't control for it. And that's just a scary aspect of life itself. Mm-hmm. You know, what if I fucked up and caused someone to die and it was someone that I loved? I mean, that's just, there's nothing more scary than that, I think, right? So my favorite scare was I love the projector scene, and I would think maybe in terms of like my favorite shot, like that shot of his face is like my favorite shot. But my favorite scary moment though was the Easter egg moment where Ben is in the library and he's reading about the explosion at the Iron Heights or whatever, and how there was like this Easter egg hunt going on. I thought that they could have sort of explain that a little bit better for the audience. I feel like it was kind of vague, but basically, yeah, this huge explosion happens, and like something like 80 children were killed immediately while on an Easter egg hunt, and like in the 1918 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he all of a sudden hears something. He sees the balloon going down the stairs, and then he goes and chases after it. And then when he goes down there, he realizes he's alone, and it's dark and quiet, and he looks back and he sees the headless figure holding the eggs. And to me, that was really, really freaky, just because I've always been freaked out by movements, like the way that creatures move can be really scary sometimes. It's almost like they're moving almost like how a bug would move. Like have you seen The House on Haunted Hill, or the remake of The House on Haunted Hill?
I don't remember. I've seen it, but I don't remember. Okay,
really good. And there's the main bad guy in that, he this doctor character, he walks kind of like, it's weird, he walks fast and then slow, and it's kind of, or like fast and then he stops, and like it's all, and then of course this thing doesn't have a head, so it's kind of like blind or whatever, and the way its feet are flopping out and it's dropping the eggs and stuff, that part to me was really freaky. And what I also really liked about that particular scene, which also this had a lot in common with a lot of the other scary scenes in the movie, is that it was fast, right? He sees the monster, he freaks out, he runs, the monster starts chasing after him, and then it turns into Pennywise, and then he turns back while he's running, and then he runs into the librarian, and then he just runs up the stairs, and it doesn't last more than 10 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, it's really short.
It's really, really short, and there's a lot of scenes like that, and I really appreciate that because it's almost like an extended jump scare in a way. It's like just a freaky moment, but it's not going to be some long, drawn-out scene that's going to like necessarily affect the plot of the movie. It's just like a little creep-out moment, and so I really appreciated that, especially. And just, the bang, 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 and then he turns into Pennywise, and then he says something, I forget what it was, and then that's it, and I just really appreciated that.
I think just there aren't really any dull moments in this movie. Like,
sure,
even if nothing's happening, like, it's shot very well.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
me and Sam reviewed Zodiac. We were talking about David Fincher, and I was just thinking, what if like David Fincher directed this movie?
Oh.
Like, how would it be? Like, I feel like
I don't even want to think about that because it just depresses me.
Yeah,
but of course I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
What if Quentin Tarantino did a Bond movie or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. Like of course you're gonna think about that.
Yeah,
and you'd love it, but
it would be very different. Who knows if it would be better? Like we don't know. Like we're assuming it's better, but I think it's just that's good filmmaking. Is thinking like, oh, what if someone else did it? Because like they're kind of not the same.
Yeah.
Camera working, but I feel like it has the same feel where it's telling a story without any dialogue, like just the shots of the town and everything like that. The only real negative I have about this movie is some of the CGI is spotty, but it's because it's such a low budget movie, and I don't think it's gonna be a problem in the sequel because this made a fuck ton of money. And they're gonna throw like Warner Brothers is gonna throw so much money at this because they know it's gonna be even a bigger.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you guys have any negative thoughts on it?
I want to talk about one more positive first.
Yeah.
I like how it was set in the 1980s. I think it worked well for especially this generation. If they set it in the 50s, is it in the 50s? The book?
In the book and in the first movie, when they're kids, it's in the 50s, and then when they're adults, it's in the 80s.
There's no way you'd be able to connect with it with today's audience. So just to transplant it to the 80s, perfect. And it gave that sense of borrowed nostalgia. That we like about the 80s. Everyone loves some sort of.
The 80s are what's in right now.
And so obviously it's going to connect with the audience. So I think that was cool. But in terms of negatives...
I was actually... I want to speak on that too.
Yeah.
I was actually concerned about them having it take place in the 80s and not in the 50s because I was just, any fan of the source material. Oh, they're taking liberties with it and like, you better do it right. And I thought they did a really good job. I loved the New Kids on the Block joke, the running joke. Yeah. That was really funny. When she shows the poster and then you hear the beat of one of the songs. Yeah. And that was really cool. And also it'll be cool to see when they're adults. It'll be it'll be 2015 probably, right? Because it's the first one was in, or no, it was 2016, right? Because it's going to
be 27 years later. So 2089 was.
It was 89 in the new movie. Yeah, it was 88 when
2016.
When the brother died.
I thought it was like mid 80s.
No, remember it's at October 1988 when Georgie gets killed.
Okay.
And that I told you that was the month I was born, which I thought that was really cool. I kind of connected with the movie immediately just for that reason. And if my dad was alive and was watching that, he would have like totally connected with that too. But yeah, that first scene takes place when the month I was born. But then it's everything starts the summer when school's out, and so it's the summer of 89 is when it takes place. So it'd be 2016 when it comes back in the sequel.
That'd be cool. You had a negative, Sam?
You know what? When you were talking about how there wasn't really a dull moment, I think like for this movie in particular, it jumps from sort of set piece to set piece.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that's sort of what keeps it good, in my opinion. To me, I wasn't as interested in the dull parts or in the like the in between parts as I was the set pieces, and I think the set pieces redeem it substantially. If they weren't as effective, if that projector scene wasn't as amazing, if that opening scene wasn't as shocking, the rest of the film would have paled in comparison. So I wasn't a fan of like the sort of the in between. I think I need to rewatch it just to get another fresh look.
Yeah.
But I think it was very kind of it was in chunks for me, and I think that goes back to when we were talking about Fukunaga, how it was there, the skeleton is there, but it's highly unpolished, in my opinion. It's still a good movie, very good movie in my opinion, and I'll rewatch it and I'll buy it, and I enjoy it, but I think it could have been much more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess you can just go right into reviews. 5-star rating. This isn't a perfect movie, but I really enjoyed it a lot. Not just as a scary movie, but just a movie in general. I feel like there's an overhype to it, though, to a degree where...
definitely.
Just like, especially with, like, I am assuming with younger audiences, like people in high school that are going to see this. Like, this is their first scary movie they're seeing. Like, I'm 17, I can see this now. Yeah. And I feel like they're going to treat it as, like, this groundbreaking film that's
so, and we should actually talk about that for just a moment, which is that so it's funny because everyone that I've been talking to about it and about the original one and stuff, most of the people are saying the same things that you guys are saying. Oh, I've seen like one scene, or I've seen part of it, or I haven't seen it at all. But everyone knows about it. Yeah. Like everyone knows about this movie, but very few people have seen it because it's really long and not very good. But then begs to ask the question, like, well then, why is it such a famous horror movie? Why is it considered by so many people to be like the scariest movie ever? And I think it's because of the people like me, where my dad made me watch it when I was like 3 years old. Yeah. And like it terrified me. I mean, it absolutely terrified me. And about 1 in 10 people that I talk about it with say the same thing. Like, oh yeah, my dad or someone made me watch it, and it was like the scariest thing to me as a kid, Mm-hmm. And I mean, I thought Pennywise was gonna pop out from behind every corner of every wall and from behind my couch, and obviously the drains. That must have been terrifying. It was very scary. It was very scary. Yeah, and so I think a lot of people were expecting so much because of people like me going, oh man, it's like the scariest movie, And then like, of course, we're trying to backpedal a little bit before the remake comes out, because I'm trying to tell people, oh, it's really scary, but it's also not a very good movie. Yeah. So like, we don't know what to expect really with this remake. I'm expecting it to be better, and I think overall, I will say it was certainly better than the original movie. In fact, in my opinion, the only good thing about the original movie is Tim Curry. Obviously, does a great job. Some of the other actors are actually not bad. I would say the actors in general did a good job, but obviously, I have a big problem with the writing and stuff. In this remake, my only beef with it really, and it's actually very similar to what you guys were saying, is again just the writing. It's unpolished. It should have felt more like Stand By Me or something like that. It should have felt more like, I mean, what really makes it a great heroic story is the Losers Club. I mean, just think about that, man. The Losers Club. A group of kids so badass, they took on an interdimensional chaos monster that likes to eat babies. For fun, or apparently, and they're a bunch of nerds that get picked on by everybody in their town. That's fucking cool, man. That's like, they're like the Avengers or the Justice League or something, a group of nobodies, that stands up to this monster. And I just didn't feel that in this remake. Like, it just didn't feel like authentic. It felt kind of like slopped together. And oh yeah, Eddie Kaspbrak's mom will show what's going on with her, so that adds disjointed. Yeah, it's very disjointed. Yeah, it's very disjointed, and I think that had they spent a little bit more time on just the characters themselves and their motivations and what's going on with them, then I think it would have been, and also the town itself, I think it would have been a lot better. And so that was kind of what bothered me about it. It just kind of, in the end, the characters, I didn't feel as much of a connection. I felt about the same connection to those characters as I might have to any horror movie character, where it's like, all right, these guys are about to all get killed, and I don't really care. I want to care about them because I don't want them to get killed, So that was kind of my big problem. Other than that, I liked it, and I thought that I even like the liberties that they took with it. As a fan of the source material, obviously, like, it's kind of saying something. I thought that I liked how they ended it.
Part 1.
Overall, yeah, I thought it was great. I would say probably if I had to give it a star rating, I would give it 5 for horror and then 4 for just general movies, I would say.
So Sam, you didn't give your rating yet, right?
No, I didn't give my rating. 5 stars out of 5 stars.
Just as a movie.
As a movie, I would say like 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5, 3.75 maybe. But I it's just, I enjoyed it. and I'll rewatch it, and I'll encourage others to watch it. But there were a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
A lot of flaws. For every good part, there was an equal flaw. The good parts kept you going, and at the end, it's like, I enjoyed that. But I think it could have been much more.
I agree. There's flaws. I would still give it. Yeah, there's some flaws, but I still really enjoy this movie. I would just give it a round number of 4. I feel like a 4 is a little bit too high, but
Yeah, I agree.
or like in between 3.5 and 5, or
3.75,
3.5
man.
and 4. It's a great movie, especially you watch around Halloween. It's still in theaters right now, so
Yeah.
if you want an even bigger, better sequel, go watch it now. Put more money. Because
It's already made
it's made so much
outrageous.
money.
It got
Just
greenlit like
Just go see it just to see an original, unique horror film.
Yeah.
It's just really different and it's just refreshing. Whether or not you actually like the movie overall, it's at least interesting to watch.
That's right. Horror as a genre isn't really as progressing as fast as other genres, in my opinion.
That's the sad.
No, it's in fact, if anything, it's atrophying right now. It's every plot to every horror movie is some sort of regurgitated.
But like you said, we get like one good one a year.
Yeah, like 1 or 2. Yeah, and that's all I need. But
What was it? The Witch last year. It follows the year
follows,
before.
yeah,
exactly. So I mean, A24 right now is basically I'm just I used to really like Lionsgate because Lionsgate was doing a lot of really good horror movies. Now Lionsgate does everything. You know what I mean?
Well, even A24, as good as their track record are,
Yeah.
there's some bad movies. The Black Coat's Daughter. I
don't even know what the hell that is.
It's just,
We watched It Comes at Night.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Or They Come at
See,
Night.
I
Or
was
is it It
stoked
Comes
for
at
that, and then I saw the reviews, and everyone was like, "No." I was like, man.
It was
Wait, have you not
good.
seen it yet?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. We don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, well-
the only issue with it is, and this is a big thing we should talk about more when we do stuff like this.
How it's marketed?
Is how the marketing of a film now in our generation, that's a very important part to what makes a good film is how it's marketed. And that's why like Star Wars is doing so great right now. Is they're not revealing too much information. They're like,
But except this past
yeah,
trailer,
well, okay, yeah, that's true.
We won't go into
Sorry, taking it back a little bit, but for the marketing really that projector scene was
Yeah.
made better by the marketing. We
Yep.
all saw that scene, but instead of like a jump scare that everyone was expecting, we saw one that we weren't expecting, and so that's a very important, I think, component to filmmaking these days. Is what are you gonna reveal to the audiences before? And It Comes at Night was just marketed. It was like too much of a bait and switch. It was basically like me going to that restaurant in Paris and ordering. What was it that I ordered? The steak or whatever.
You want lamb.
And the guy's trying to make me eat lamb, and I'm like, no, I don't want lamb. I want steak. I ordered a steak because I want steak. If I want lamb, I'll order lamb. I don't want lamb right now, And that's kind of what It Comes at Night did.
You like lamb?
You like lamb? You try lamb. You like Lebanese food? No. So, sure, man, but not right now, So, yeah, I was kind of that's the main problem with that. So, we'll see, but I would definitely say at least, even though it came out way earlier than the general season of horror movies, which comes out in October, I would say it's certainly the best horror movie that's come out this year so far.
Yeah, I mean,
probably will be the best.
The only other horror movie that is on my mind right now is Better Watch Out, which came out last Friday. Which it's a very low budget movie, and it looks like a rated R version of Home Alone. Where there's the babysitter, and then like I think burglars come in, but like they do some of the same stuff, like the paint cans, and like even in the trailer, he's like, "Wait, you're gonna Home Alone them with that?" But they show gore, and it's not like he fell on his head or he landed on Legos. Like no, he got decapitated or something. It's just crazy like that. So I feel like horror movies that makes like something fun out of what's like could be just scary. Like Wolf Cop was another really crazy movie that we reviewed earlier this month.
I have no idea what the hell that is.
Wolf Cop. Okay,
yeah,
check that out.
Listen to that review. It's pretty crazy. But
right.
we'll end this. So we all pretty much liked. It's not the best movie. It's not the best horror movie, but it's pretty good. So go watch it. I'm Ikaika.
Sam the teacher.
And Dave the teacher.
Thanks for listening.